Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. Here we are with episode 112 of Behind the Camera. As always, before we get into today's show, if you would like to follow Behind the Camera across social media, you can find my Linktree in the description, which will take you to Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and also has the link to where you can buy my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. This is available in both paperback and ebook and is free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. If you would also like to see more of the behind the scenes side of the podcast, you can also support the show on Patreon. For £3 a month, you'll get access to extra content, including a Patreon exclusive series, your name added to the wall of patrons at the end of every episode of Behind the Camera, and much more. But now, getting into today's conversation. Today, my guest is independent filmmaker Joseph Mbah. Ahead of the release of his latest film, Whispers Bind, set to release on the 8th of June across Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and Fawesome, I had the chance to sit down with director Joseph Mbah to discuss the project. We talk about the story behind Whispers Bind, Joseph's path as an independent filmmaker, and how indie filmmaking compares to studio and commercial environments. But now, here's the interview. Joseph, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. Pleasure to have you on the show. How are we doing today?
We're doing awesome, man. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. So you are an independent filmmaker, and you have upcoming Whispers Bind releasing on to Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and Fawesome on the 8th of June. But before we get into that, let's go right back to the very, very beginning. I want to talk about your career as an independent filmmaker and how you got into this and how it's led you to where you are today.
So I didn't know people made movies. I didn't know, just the same way I didn't know people made products in stores or on the shelf. And I was very keen on going into the military and becoming a pilot. And then like I saw myself as a person who was an inventor. Like I knew I wanted to contribute to the world and contribute to people's experience in a way that was meaningful, but I didn't know what shape that would take. So for me, all I knew was like, if I invented something that is kind of cool, that it changes people's lives, then I would have done something worthy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I was. And I was like that from, I'll say from like as early as I can remember all the way up to senior year in high school. And I had an English teacher who was like teaching us, she was teaching us like point of view and you know how to tell stories and things of that nature. And she's like, I am so tired of you people giving me your boring book reports. Like, it's your senior year in high school. You better do something exciting. Like, end it with a bang. Do something. And also at the same time, I just remember it being this like environment where they're like, you must figure out what you have to do with your life. Everyone who graduates high school knows that, right? And I, I was like, I already know what I want to do. Like, what's the hassle? Like, I'm in the ROTC, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go into the like I had the whole thing mapped out. We were living in Palm Springs, California at the time, and I remember this day, and I always go back to that because it was like it must have been like 120, 150 degrees outside. And I came home and my mom stood in the garage and she wouldn't let me go inside. So if it was already hot outside, it's hotter in the garage. So she's like, son, whatever you thought you're about to go do with your life, I don't see you doing that. Like I think you need to rethink this thing. I think to do something that comes to you naturally, something that runs in a family. And I just stood there because I like, again, for me to compare to everybody else, like I already know what I wanted to do. Like everyone knows what I'm doing. So why we even have, so it made me stop. And then as I started to think about it, all of a sudden, all of these things, all these experiences I've had started coming back. For example, I didn't, for some reason, I didn't realize that my older brother was an actor. And he was an actor in New York City who was bringing home scripts and auditions, and he was actually in like MTV music videos. And I remember like I've showed it to my friend. Like I don't know why I forgot all of that, right? So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay. So I start looking in, and then I'm like, oh yeah, my uncle is a musician. He had a record deal, and then oh yeah, there's a whole family band, and I'm a part of it. So all of this just came crashing at the same time. And for the first time in my life, I remember I watched the movie SWAT, and
Mhm.
I actually took the time to look at the behind the scenes, which I've never done. And then as I was watching that, I realized that it took people to make movies, and I was
Yeah.
hooked. So then I was like, okay, if this thing, I'm gonna try this thing. If it works out, I'm gonna do like a little short film for my English project, and if it works out, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. Not taking it seriously, but I just went for it anyways. And man, it was the most fun I've ever had. And not just that, like I always tell everyone, like if you can imagine the short film I made, it's as bad as you think it is. Probably worse, okay? But like my teacher was so impressed by the effort that we put in that she went and got my school's principal to come watch it. So all of
Okay.
a
Yeah.
sudden I had this like micro recognition in school, and it blew my mind. I'm like, oh wow, here you want to do something that impacts people's lives. Like oh, and everything just made sense. So then I hopped on YouTube and I started researching and found out we have to go to film school, and the rest is history. And that's how I fell into it. So it's a long-winded way to tell you that a high school project led me to it.
No, I love that though, because like, you're like born into a family of creatives, and you know from the start that you are creative at heart, and that's what you want to do. You want to create, you want to tell stories. And I love that the mention of your brother being an actor the entire time, but it's just something that's so normal for you,
Right.
obviously growing up, that it's just like, it kind of ties back to the whole, you don't realize that people make these things and what goes into making
Yes.
it. And that's the same thing, with your brother doing all that. It's like, it's just almost like, oh yeah, he's in a music video. That's
Yeah,
just like, yeah,
yeah,
that's
he
just a
was just doing
typical
it.
Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, cool. No, I love that. So
Uh,
um so then, was there a lot of your career, were you self-taught in terms of filmmaking, or did you go to film school and then kind of hone it there when you went on to
yeah,
making your
so
movies?
obviously, and here's my thought process. Boy, yeah, I'm an interesting one. So we lived in Palm Springs, California, which is next to LA, this
Hmm.
capital of film. I didn't know that. Okay. So, but I was like, all right, well, I got to go to school. So my mom, she just said, hey, I cannot afford to take you to any expensive colleges.
Hmm.
Right. So find me the most affordable version. And I found like Full Sail University, and I found all these colleges, and we looked at the tuition. She's like, that's not happening. So I found this like smaller college in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was like a private college, and the tuition was just right. So I was like, okay, mom, we're going to go here. And then we flew to Arizona. On our way driving to the school, we got lost and ended up in a community college, and to ask for direction. I know it's weird, but she's like, okay, let's go ask for directions at the school, because this is back like GPS was barely a thing, so I was
Mm.
still like holding a map, right? So we went in to ask for direction, and she's like, okay, sit in the lobby. I sat in the lobby. By the maybe like 30, 45 minutes passed, and she came back, and she's like handing me like my pamphlet and all right, so you enrolled, and then you're gonna go here. And I'm like, Ma, what the heck? Like, we were going to this college. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, but what about film? She's like, I got you covered. She turns around and she's like, you see that man walking towards us? He's both your guidance counselor, and he's the film teacher at this college. So here you go, Tony, meet Joseph, Joseph, meet Tony. And I was like, okay. So I ended up going to a crash course in filmmaking at a community college. And while at that program, the teacher, my teacher, Tony Deshay, he's like, you will learn way more than you would in a classroom if you went out and worked.
Mhm.
Like he's like, if you go out and volunteer, and like you say, you don't know anything, but if you go out and tell people, I don't know anything, but I'm willing to work for free, you will learn so much more doing that than you would sit in a classroom and racking up tuition expense.
Yeah.
So I took that advice, and I just kind of, as soon as I was done with his program, I hit the ground running. And I was on Craigslist. I was yeah, I was a Craigslist for a while. Then it became Facebook, but it's like Craigslist, looking at different gigs and just messaging people. And eventually I landed my first gig. It was a wonderfully horrible experience. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from it. And then from there, I just kept going and kept going. And then everything has just, I've learned from professionals. I've made mistakes. I've practiced on my own. So I just kind of kept building it that way. Even like when it came to make my first feature, I actually learned how to piece together a feature
Mhm.
because I worked for the third. I mean, it's not dirt cheap, because to me, then like whatever I was being paid was like mind blowing that someone will pay me to be a camera operator on their feature film that's going to Redbox. Like, wow, like, oh my God, like it was amazing. But I learned from him how to piece together a feature film, and then I was able to go make my first movie. So I self-taught, but not really. I just had a lot of really cool mentors.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I think it's absolutely solid advice as well, because you're out there learning by doing, whereas you could have spent 4 years in a classroom with maybe 6 months experience, practical experience, where you're just learning about the theory of it. And but like you said, you rack up all this debt, but you don't
Yeah.
have a portfolio behind you or anything like that. And I honestly have to say, though, and this is what I love about this the most. It's, of all places to stop and ask for directions to another college in a community college. It's just, but the way that turned out, man, is just absolutely incredible. I think that is like the definition of fate, if nothing else. Like,
Yes,
that is
man.
incredible,
Yes.
man. Like,
Yes.
and like, in terms of your earlier experiences, then, like, when you're learning the craft, you're cutting your teeth, like, what was that like? Was it just a sort of information overload, or did, having done like sort of little projects in the past, did most of it make sense?
It made sense gradually, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to give a couple of more like plugs of the people who really helped me along the way. And if you've been an independent filmmaker, especially in the early 2000s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and they're still around. Film Riot and Andrew Kramer from videocopilot.net. Okay, Film Riot was like my film school, because like they were pumping out a lot of like tutorials, and like they would do short films, and they would break down how they did it. So I'm like looking at all the gear they're using, and I'm like, man, I want to use those gears, but I cannot afford it. So I did a lot of DIY.
Mm-hmm.
So it was difficult, but what I spend a lot of my time doing, just because I was a young person and I lived in my mom's house, so I didn't have any expenses. I just spent a lot of time going to school, having ideas, and then just like using the DIY methods possible to then make those ideas. And I would just I was making a lot of short films, a lot of short film, a lot of short films. And I made so many of those things that eventually I figured out that I need a demo reel.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was able to go back to my short films and find the best moments of those short films to cut my demo reel. Then that allowed me to get bigger gigs. And then from those other gigs, I was able to continue to elevate and just make better and better demo reels. And that those continue to increase my opportunities. But like it was challenging, but because I was kind of in my own bubble, it didn't feel like it. Like honestly, I didn't start to feel the heat of and the difficulty of filmmaking until I landed my first actual real professional
Yeah.
job, which is like I was working on a TV show. When you start dealing with real professionals and there's real money at stake, boy, the conversation changes. like all of a sudden, like, wait, I'm responsible for what? And
I'm
and
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure, because like, obviously a big difference between, like, independent and, professional is, like, with independent, you're responsible for everything. Or, well, I've spoken to independent filmmakers in the past, and the way they kind of put it is, everybody's responsible for everything. Like, everybody kind of chips in, does their own little thing. Obviously everybody has their role, but in terms
Right.
of, you're talking like kit and running things like that, everybody kind of helps everybody. But when it comes to professional, it's like, you don't even have to worry about your own gear. It's just literally go, you're put in the one place, there you go, you're in charge of this, and here are 6 people who you are in charge of, make sure they're doing their work.
Right.
And I'm sure
Yep.
that's probably like overwhelming in itself. But obviously, as a creative, would you say that you prefer the independent side because, as a creative and an ideas guy, you get to sort of just, be your sort of creative best and have that kind of license to go and do what it is that you want to do?
I would say that I love being independent because of my bigger vision.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, like, so when I started thinking about, okay, what do I actually want to turn this thing into? Like, where can I actually take it? And I realized, okay, there's 2 paths. You could go the independent route, or you could go the studio route.
Yeah.
Or you can leave the whole narrative aside and just go to the commercial route. Like, there was like very specific routes you could take. And for me, for what I wanted to do, like, when I've tried to kind of go the more professional Hollywood studio route, what I found was a lot of red tape and a
Yeah.
lot of no's, right? Like, it's like, okay, well, yeah, you can, but at the same time, no, you can't do that because this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even down to where, we're okay, you're a DP, I'm the director, for example. Like, honestly, this happened. So as the budgets were kind of getting up there, and we are doing like a professional music video for like a kind of they weren't big, but they were a known band.
Yeah.
The band requested a very specific shot, and my cinematographer just couldn't pull the shot off, and I could. Can I please take the camera and shoot this? Sorry, you can't. Why? I'm the DP, you're the direct. Like those kind of little just the little no's that you get that stops you from
Yeah.
fulfilling your big vision. And you get that like from the bottom all the way up to like when I've gone out to like meet with bigger people, studios, whatever. It's just like you get a lot of no's. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, the best way for me to make sure that my vision is as close to what it needs to be as possible is for me to be independent. Like,
Yeah.
literally, a studio owner said, "Hey, if you want your independence, pay for it." And I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. Well said, sir. Don't worry. We'll stop the meeting here, and I understand. And
For sure.
and he wasn't trying to be a jerk or anything. He
No,
was
of
just
course.
being honest. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's like the kind of thing where nothing easy ever comes free. Like, and so in
no.
the case of the music video, like, what was the reason that you weren't allowed to take the camera to do this shot? Is it just in terms of like the structure, or is it like a matter of liability, or what was like? Was there a specific reason given?
His reason wasn't very strong. It was just as simple as I'm the cinematographer. It is my job
Oh
to do
wow.
this, right?
Okay.
And we had rented relatively like an expensive camera package for that time. So like, yeah, there was the responsibility aspect of it, and but really it was just like, first of all, also compared to him as a cinematographer, yeah, like, okay, I could shoot it, but I'm not a cinematographer. I didn't know what he knew at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, which after that project, I was like, okay, I do not enjoy the no's that I've gotten as a director talking to cinematographers. And I know I have an accent and it could be hard to communicate. So I was like, okay, let me learn how to be a cinematographer so that I can be a better cinematographer for other directors, which is how I ended up on my first features. Like, I spent the next couple of months, probably a year or two, just grinding, trying to get as much cinematography job as I can and just learn and learn and learn about lenses and about lighting and all of this stuff. And I just kept improving that skill until I was good enough to work for other directors. And then I made sure that I'm never the cinematographer that tells you no just for the sake of no. I would say, hey, this thing you want to do, I would like, I give an example. I would I was a camera operator on one of my friends' feature films that he shot maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And he really wanted this very specific shot where this character is running, but we didn't have and we wanted to track him back with a Steadicam, and I was the Steadicam operator. And I cannot, there's no way I could run back fast enough to get the shot. So I need to be in another vehicle. And this was not the safest way possible to do it. And everybody else on the crew, right, we're like, sorry, director, we can't because it's not that safe. I was like, guys, I can do it. It's okay. And then I hopped on the vehicle and it's like, just strap me in, just make it as safe as possible. Let's give him the shot he wants. And we were able to do that shot. And that shot ended up in his trailer. Like, he saw the vision. So that's my thing, is like, so I'm like, let me be a good cinematographer so I can help other people. And then that in turn kind of created, so then now I'm a cinematographer. Now I understand cinematographers. So then when I go to talk to a cinematographer, I can talk better, and then I can explain myself
Yeah.
better because now I know I'm not going to ask things that is borderline impossible of
Yeah.
my crew. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. And like, it's I think to me as well, it's like the difference between just having ideas and really making the ideas happen and bringing them to life. Because I think, when you're behind the camera, you looking out at your set, you have a distinct vision of what it is that you want. And like, even if it's, and obviously with the cinematography, that's kind of the brings in the element of, is this possible, yes or no, rather than just because
Right.
and is there then, like, I've been as a director and cinematographer, is there then like a lot of compromise between what you might want as a shot, being the director, versus what actually can be done? Like, obviously you have the example there, what you said with the vehicle, but would there be any sort of other compromises that you might have had to have made in any of your films?
Oh, yes. Like, honestly, the best way I can answer that question is to say that Whispers Bind is the film that I've made with the least amount of compromise.
Oh wow, okay.
Because I just like the way I answer people. I say, like, is the same person, same approach, almost the same gear. It's just I learned and got better at the
Hmm.
craft. That's what changed. So I think the better with less knowledge, I made a lot of compromises because I will have an idea, but I don't have the skill to back it up. Right.
Hmm.
Right. So I was like, okay, I need the shot to be this. I want the character to do this, but for me to do that way, oh wait, no, I can't. And then before you know it, like the shot kind of goes here, and then I end up with this, and I'm like, okay, still good, but it wasn't what I thought of.
Yeah,
Right,
of
so
course.
I've done a lot of compromising in past projects, but the better I get, the less compromise I make because I can pull off what I have in my head.
Yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course. So let's talk about Whispers Bind then. So as we mentioned, it's releasing on Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and Fawesome on the 8th of June. Would we say it's your biggest feature to date? And also talk us through the sort of general premise of the film and the inspirations that you had to making it.
So the way I talk to my cast, my crew, and all my collaborators on this film, and I adopted this mindset after my first feature.
Mhm.
I said, I'm not out to make the best movie you have ever seen. I'm not out to make the best movie I ever made. I just want to make the best movie I have ever made. So I turned to the crew and say, if you look at this past film that I did, whether you were part of it or not, um, the goal is to make a better film than that, right? And that permeates across the board. So, for example, like on my second film, and no names to be mentioned, but on my second film, one of the most painful aspects was the makeup,
Mhm.
because the character, he is supposed to gradually get damaged and more damage as he goes along the story. The makeup didn't convey that. So like when people saw the movie, they were like, what's up with his face? Like it wasn't the we were looking for. It was like they were confused. Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong? Why does he look like he's burnt? And in like he wasn't in a fight. That's what it was. So but on this film, we just set out to make the best movie as a collective that we have all made, and that came into everyone looking at, okay, like for example, I'll shout out my sound guy, Kenny. He's like the sound department. He's the sound ninja, that's what we'll call him, because he did all the sound recording and sound mixing, and he actually mixed the final film. And on this film, he's like, I'm going to challenge myself to mix in 5.1. So he mixed in surround sound, and it sounds amazing. It sounds better than this movie sounds better than any movie I've ever made. So long story short is this movie is not the biggest movie you've ever seen. It's an independent movie. I'm sure people are going to say and do things they do to independent movies, but to us as a creative team, it is the best movie we have ever made, and it was the best experience making a movie that we've ever had. So, and that's all the way from the idea. So to speak to the idea, um, the movie came as a conversation between me and my family. One day we were like, we're talking about your inner voice and how like it influences your day to day. Like, oh, I'm thirsty. Should I drink this bottle of water? No, but you should probably drink it because if you go outside and it's hot, you might be dehydrated or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So it's like what impact your inner voice has on you, and that kind of stuck to me. And I kept thinking, I'm like, your inner voice is you, and you know yourself better than anyone knows you. So what if your inner voice becomes an entity that hunts you, but it's an entity that knows you better than you know yourself? I'm like, that's scary. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like a movie. So I did what I do. I just wrote a short film, and me and my wife and my sister and our other collaborator, it was just like it was like 2020, so it was like COVID, so it was just our
Hmm.
little bubble, and we're like, okay, let's make this short film. We made the short film, and we again implemented the same thing. We're like, okay, from the last movie we made, one of the most painful thing about that movie is that I didn't understand the importance of production design. Like your set and your production design tells the story about your character more than the shots would, even because it's the frame, right? What is it like when people live, they put things that help, that tells where they are in their particular life in there. So anyway,
Yeah.
we're like, okay, we're gonna make the effort to do better production design on the short film. So we did that. We made the short film, and I uploaded it on YouTube. His call Whispers Band. And at that moment, I would like upload a video and it would get like 100 views, maximum 300 views. This short film got like 6,000 views, and
Oh,
I was blown
nice.
away. Right. And then it was like a lot of positive comments. So I was like, oh, great. I'm done. It's great. Great experience. Fast forward like 2 years later, me and my wife were like thinking about what the next movie we're going to make is all about. And we had a friend who just had a baby who was going through postpartum, and she
Hmm.
shared her story with us, and it just kind of clicked at the same time. We were like, what if we took that idea where your inner voice can mess with you, and then you match it up to a woman who is either pregnant or is going through postpartum? Like, what would that do? And all of a sudden we saw the film and we started writing it, and that's how Whispers Bind, the feature film, was born.
That's incredible. Yeah, like that's really I love that the fact that from the beginning, for everything you said there, it's first and foremost, it's part of your journey of just improving on the last movie, and that bit's particularly stuck with me because I think it's especially with how cruel people can be, especially like movie lovers and the general public. Like, oh my god, like you want to just put out something that you're passionate about, that you put a lot of effort into, and then like that's kind of forget about everything else first. I think that's like one of the most important things. It's like, yeah, like you said, it might not be the biggest movie you've ever seen, but like it's the best one we've ever done, and that's like definitely
Yeah,
something to be 100% proud of. Like, and
yeah.
I can't wait myself to can't wait to see the movie myself. Like, having
Oh, thanks,
having
man.
you explained that the way you did, I just think it sounds absolutely incredible. And is this the first sort of like, would you, what in terms of a genre would you say, like horror, psychological thriller type, in sort of in between?
Yeah, so it is horror psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
The when we had the initial idea and we were heading the direction we're heading, as you bring on collaborators, that's one of the things I've learned as a filmmaker is bring on collaborators, they inspire the project, and the
Yeah.
project kind of shapes and bends. So it was like I wrote something that was like very dark and very edgy, but I had this like core of like a relationship between these two characters in there. And one, the lead character, she's used to losing people in her life, like pretty much anyone that comes into her life either dies or just leaves her, or she's used to loss. So she's put up a wall. She doesn't want people to get close, and she's just kind of going through her life. And along comes her love interest, and the guy just like, I love you, I'm not giving up. I'm here for you, type of thing. So the film ended up going more focused on their relationship, and I found
Yeah.
after we made the movie that that's what people tend to gravitate towards, is like, oh, we loved the relationship aspect of the film. So yes, I wrote something edgy, but what we ended up creating as a collective was something with a more heart to it than
Yeah.
I intended. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I think that's also important because when you have like that genre of movie, like obviously when it comes to like horror movies, for example, people love to be scared. They love to kind of the entities of that we can't really fathom sort of as humans. They love that kind of stuff. But I think no matter what story you're trying to tell, there needs to be that kind of level of empathy, whether it be with a particular character or a relationship. There has to be something that the audience can connect to on like a
yeah,
human level, and that's something that
I
like I've
agree.
noticed with every single creator, filmmaker, anyone who writes stories, any storyteller I've ever spoke to has said the same thing. And it's like it's I love it. I love it because I
Yeah,
mean
man. Yeah,
everyone
like
puts themselves in the film, don't they? Like, or a book, whatever it may be. Everyone puts themselves as the
yep.
main character. We all have that kind of energy.
Yes, no, I agree with you, like, completely, like, because even when I think about the movies that inspired me, yes, the big action set pieces were amazing, but I was really there for the character and the journey
Hmm.
that we're going through, and I can imagine myself like, oh man, what if I was going through this,
Yeah.
or like I've gone through something kind of like this, man, oh my god, so now I'm rooting for them, like, to get them, yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, for
man.
sure, man. Like, and so then in terms of the actual making of Whispers Bind, with the genre being what it is, usually generally a lot more low key in terms of cast size, location, etc., compared to like maybe an action movie or any other genre that you've done. What was development like on Whispers Bind compared to the other features that you've worked on?
So so we approached Whispers Bind like we've done all the other films. We're like, all right, we got a script. We've sent the script to our collaborators. They've read it. They've given us feedback. We've written it as good as we think we can write it. All right, so let's go cast the movie. And we're getting our usual suspect crew members
Mm-hmm.
involved. Everyone's like excited, cool. So go cast the movie, and we're really struggling to find the lead, right? Like, we're really struggling. It's not that there wasn't fantastic actors available. It was like, oh, their schedule just didn't work,
Mm-hmm.
or this other little thing, or this other little thing, or like, okay, you want more money than we can afford, sorry, we can't. Like, it was just a lot going on. And I remember I just paused and I turned to my wife and I say, babe, we wrote this character based off of your, like, a lot of this character is you, you know? I'm like, you could play this character. And she's acted before in our
Yeah.
films, small capacity. So I talked to her and then she's like, okay, she signed on to be the lead of the film. So, which all of a sudden for us, especially on this low budget, that just freed up a chunk of budget that we can allocate to somewhere else. So I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I get to work with my wife. I get to direct her. Oh, now I can really shoot this movie. Like, okay, I'm like, I can push my wife. We could go here. And then we start to cast the her love interest, and we're running into the same thing. Like, we found a guy and he was like, okay, he's the guy, he's perfect. And I thought he was local, and then I found out he lives in LA. He works as a local, but he really lives in LA. So
Mm-hmm.
then, to get him over, I gotta pay for him room and board, I gotta pay for travel, I gotta pay. I'm like, oh man, so now we just saved this money, but it's gonna go back. And then I'm like, then she turned to me and she's like the same thing. She's like, Joe, you you're the character. I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm not an actor. Stop it. She's like, no. So what I ended up doing, I auditioned for her slash myself. So we did like so I actually literally auditioned. I remember, like, there's the video of me auditioning. And after I auditioned, I sat back and I said, okay, let me watch it objectively to make sure I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid. And I watched it. I was like, I don't hate it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it. And I was like, okay. okay, all of a sudden, then the world opens up even further because I'm like, if I'm this character, then this character can do this, and we could go here. Oh, and I can, there's this like action piece that I wrote into the film that I was worried about someone pulling off. They're like, I don't mind tossing myself up and down, like it's me. So all of a sudden, it just like our little family became even smaller and more tight knit because it's like, okay, it's just me and my wife, and the main principal location is our house. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, this is about to be fun. Like, we're just going to wake up and work at home and just work with our friends and the usual suspects. Like, that just sounds like an amazing time. And that's how this movie ended up being, because then compared to other films where we like you rent a location, then
Yeah.
you have like a week to rush in and set dress it and do all of this stuff. We just took our time, like set dress in the house little by little, and put stuff in and take stuff out, and then we'd like do test shots and test out lighting, like stuff I couldn't do before because we just couldn't afford to do it. All of a sudden became a real thing. Like all the equipment parking in the garage, like it was great. So
Yeah.
so working on this film was smaller than we've ever had it out of just life being life, and then yeah, that's the shape it took, and then the rest of our friends, everyone just loved coming to our house to work. Like they were just coming to our house, like that was it. So it was awesome, man. It was great.
That's brilliant, man. I love that. Like, and do you think the fact that there was a lot less stress in terms of, well, everything surrounded by, like everything you just said, that did that contribute to sort of the quality of the finished product? Just because, even if the vision might have kind of, well, I say the vision changed, but like more, you were able to sort of explore it a bit more. Like, if anything, that kind of sounds like a lot more fun in terms of what you're putting into it, and it's like, it just sounded like an enjoyable project at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, it was like it is legitimately for me as a filmmaker. I can proudly say it is the best experience I've had making a movie before.
Hmm.
Like I had such a good time making it, that and the low stress environment definitely yielded to a better product,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden, like all the stuff that I personally didn't like about the filmmaking process didn't exist anymore, you know and so it was great. And then the whole time, like, we would stop ourselves, the whole cast crew, and we're just like, hey guys, are we making a movie? Or they're like, yeah, no, we're still making a movie. And we would like watch the dailies, like we would watch dailies, and I will cut them together just to make sure that, because like that's the worst thing, is to be like, I had a great experience, and then you turn up with a movie that makes no sense at all. you know so, so so we checked ourselves throughout the whole process. And sorry, can you hear the sound?
uh, no,
Oh, okay.
everything's all right. Yeah.
Okay, I had a loud car passing by, so I apologize.
Oh no, no,
I'll
you're
get
okay,
back up.
man.
Yeah. So no, we checked ourselves the whole process just to make sure that we weren't it, just there, like I call it, drinking our own Kool-Aid. And it was a great, great, great experience, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I love that. Like, and I think it's definitely important to draw the line as well between, it's like, yeah, we're all having fun here, but it's still work. It's still work. it's,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it probably is easy to forget sometimes. It's like, yeah, you're working because you're at home the whole time. you know?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like yep, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it was great.
incredible, man. That's it. That's incredible. So, eighth of June, that is dropping. And is there any plans then on is this to sort of go wider in terms of other streaming services, or so far is it just the platforms that it's coming out on Roku, Samsung, and Fawesome?
No, it's definitely going wider. One of the stuff that our journey has allowed me to have now is a more behind the scenes look at distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, on paper we have more platforms committed to release the film, but everyone kind of has their own schedule, and you might deliver the film and they're like, okay, they're like a net 60, so they will not put your movie out until 60 days after they've received it and gone through QC and all of this stuff.
Oh, okay.
So the people who got it first were Fawesome, Roku, and Samsung. So they're going to release first, and then everyone else would just kind of catch up. So to be, I think we got Amazon, it's Aspire TV, some other places. So it's gonna go wider and wider and go as wide as we can.
No, brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's also quite a good way of doing it, because it stretches out the sort of releases of it. Like, you have your initial platforms that comes out, but then over time it's still going to be released on more platforms, that where it's really kind of essentially putting more eyes onto, because not everybody would have every different platform. And so like that sounds great. Like, I mean, I can't wait for it to hit Amazon anyway, especially hopefully here in the UK too. Like that would be awesome. But Joseph, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the conversation. I would just like to give you the floor just to let the listeners know where we can find you and your work, and of course Paradox Universe as well.
Well, man, first, thank you so much. Like, I love this. I normally don't know what I'm like getting into with, being a guest sometimes, but like this was a really awesome experience, because I got a chance to like really dive into the craft, and just it was a chill conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So for anyone who wants to connect with me, the best place is Instagram. I'm active on Instagram. I will, if you send me a DM, I will talk to you there. I'm always checking it. So find me on Instagram, and it's just Joseph Mbah. And then, just, check out Whispers Bind when it comes out on your favorite streaming platform, and let me know what you think. I genuinely want to know, because if the people who care don't let me know, the general public will definitely let me know. So I'd rather hear from you.
It's so true, and it's such an important thing, like, to support independent filmmakers, allow them to continue doing what they love to do, and get the best out of it as well. So once again, thank you very much for your time, Joseph. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, man. Thank you.
And there you have it for episode 112 of Behind the Camera. Huge thank you to Joseph Mbah for being today's guest. Be sure to check out Whispers Bind, releasing 8th of June on Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and Fawesome. As always, thank you to all patrons for your support. You're all truly appreciated. And of course, if you would like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, check out my Linktree in the description for all socials, and my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. Thank you for listening, for the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.